episode, we are in the same clothes as last time.
Yes.
But
we didn't shower. No, I'm kidding.
We're bringing more content this time.
Yeah, man, we're doubling up today. I told my brother here, I was like, you know what? Our schedules are pretty busy, pretty hectic.
Yeah.
So I said, hey man, let's just maximize the time. Let's just double up.
Let's do it.
Let's double up. So we are back. I'm Alex James.
Addison Corbin.
And this is the
3 Pillars of Man podcast, coming straight to you from the ATL.
From the ATL, Stockbridge, Georgia in particular. So we are shooting back-to-back episodes, and today's episode is titled Control What You Can Control. And I'm going to lead this episode with a quote. Do what you can with what you have where you are. My brother, what does that quote mean to you, and how does that resonate with you?
So, this is probably one of the most important topics, because in our first couple episodes, we covered a lot of things. Like we covered a lot of topics. They were wrapped up in one topic, but they were multitude of different things.
Subtopics in one topic. Yeah.
And so we're finally getting to the point where we can go deeper on certain topics. And this is one of those that is, I preach on a regular basis to all of my guys, is you've got to control what you can control, and you can't worry about the external shit.
Dang.
Bro, the external shit will pull you out in so many different directions. You saw that with this election. You saw it with
God.
You saw it with
oh my gosh.
The people who watch the news on a regular basis.
Oh my gosh.
It's there's so much that people get out of their bodies, bro.
Yeah.
On so many things.
So many things, bro.
That if you kind of pull back a little bit, right? We talked about adversity, we talked about a couple different things.
Yeah.
If you pull back and you say, man, how does that actually affect me? Right? On an individual level, how does that actually affect me?
How does that affect my house?
And I can guarantee you, if you start looking at things like, man, is that going to affect me going to bed at night? Right? And there are certain things that are on a high level where that may trickle down and focus on people. But
right.
on a mass scale, how somebody speaks to you, right? Mm-hmm. This is because I can pull this together.
Yeah.
So you're in a grocery store, right? You're going to the front line. Mm-hmm. The lady who's checking you out says something, that catches you off guard. Just she's being rude. She's having a bad day, whatever. Mm-hmm. And you get all up out of your body for it. And all you can think about all day long is how rude she was, or how mean she was.
Respecting me.
Yeah. And you can even take that to a whole nother level.
Oh, yeah.
And for the people who allow that to fester in them, and go back up there and fight that person, or worse to that person, all because of some disrespect, is crazy, right?
Well, and here's the dangerous part of that. That's how a lot of people get killed.
Mm-hmm. It's where a lot of gun violence comes from.
Exactly. Bro. It's you. Let's say you and somebody else arguing, blah blah blah. They say something real personal to you, whatever, and then you just all of a sudden now you feel disrespected. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, I can't let this slide. I gotta do something, and then one thing leads to another. Next thing you know, somebody pulls out a gun, shoots them, kills them, off of just straight emotion, off of the sole fact that I can't let somebody talk to me like that or disrespect me. Now you just took a penitentiary chance. Ding ding ding, you won.
Yeah.
Now you're about to be locked up for 20 to life.
Yeah. Bro. To bring this home here in Atlanta, right? My barber. Mm-hmm. His baby mama and his baby mama and child,
right,
driving through Atlanta, they're going to the grocery store, and in the process of them doing that, some people were shooting out of a car,
Wow.
right, and into another car.
Right.
Straight bullet goes through the trunk, hits the child, kills the child, kills his child. Right? He gets the phone call, and I mean, you can look it up. I mean, there's a whole story about it. But straight gun violence, and what that whole process was the two cars that were shooting at each other. His girlfriend, right? So it was a guy and his girlfriend,
Yeah.
ex-girlfriend. They're in the process of like they're at some house. She throws a brick through his window or whatever. And so they get in an altercation, whatever, they're having some words. He feels disrespected, and that's what he said in court was, I felt disrespected. She, you know, whatever, said some things to me and then threw a brick through my window. So what he chose to do in that moment was, I'm gonna run her down and, you know, handle business.
Straight emotion.
And sure enough, in the middle of that process, not thinking about external things because he's so in-centered with what he has going on.
Right.
And not controlling what he can control, which is his own actions, mental thought process, and how he handles his attitude.
Exactly.
Ends up getting a baby killed. I'm talking months old, bro. Months old.
That's sick.
And then now he and her now have to live with that, and on top of that, then are spending their life in prison, right? So I preach this in so many levels where, you know, you've got to be able to detach from emotion in situations.
Yes, especially high stress situations. You know, and there's plenty of examples of people making emotional decisions off of situations like that. And so here's the thing, you know, when I do find myself in a situation like that, I always ask myself, is it that important? Two, am I going to be worried about this 5 hours from now? Like, for example, that example you gave with the grocery store, a lady disrespecting you. Okay, she did it. And now if I was in that situation, I would just be like, of course, your initial response would probably be like, well, who the fuck are you? Da 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 da. But it is a skill to, while you're in that moment, you gotta think like, am I gonna care about this tomorrow? Or a couple hours from now? Is this really affecting my day-to-day living? Is it affecting me paying my bills? Is it affecting me taking care of my family? And then you gotta ask yourself, if I decide to react, how is this going to affect my quality of living? How is this going to affect my family? And I don't think people do that.
Yeah.
Because when you decide to take action, and that's in that type of situation, you're making a selfish decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where we fail to realize, like, oh, I'm doing this because, no, you did it because you wanted to do it. And now you gotta go back home and tell your family that, oh, well, I punched this lady because she disrespected me. Now you gotta tell your family that. And you know what, every time, and there's another thing, and this was something my mom would always say before I went somewhere. She would say, remember, you're a James.
That last name holds value.
And I'm not the only one with that last name. So when she says that, that puts me in a space where I really have to just focus on the things I can control. Like something happens, somebody disrespects me. If I know I have a bad temper, why would I put myself in a bad situation where I know I'm gonna act in a certain way?
Yeah. Now I'm gonna triple up on that.
Yeah.
And we touched on situations,
Yeah.
right? Not thinking about the outcome of situations.
Right.
You touched base on how is this going to affect, me and those around me.
Yeah.
There's a third level to this where it's perspective, right? And I'm gonna give a quick example.
Please.
When I was growing, like when I started driving, like I first started driving, I would ride people's asses. Right?
Tell
because,
these folks.
yeah. But even in the moments that I wasn't, people would, in my eyes, they hit their brakes because, they're they're brake checking me.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And over the period of time, I started to realize that maybe they're not brake checking me, right? And because you get so mad, you get so furious, like,
right.
Oh, you're not gonna do that to me,
you.
Right? You're not gonna do that to me.
Right.
I'll drive around you all sporadic and crazy, and
Right.
not thinking about outcome.
Yeah.
Not thinking about outcome, but also perspective wise, I'm not thinking about what's happening in that car, bro. You don't know. Maybe that person saw a bee in their vehicle, right? Maybe a spider fell on. Maybe they spilled their coffee.
Yeah.
I'm not taking the perspective of the person inside that situation.
Right.
The person at the grocery store that talks mean to me.
Right.
Right? Yeah, they disrespected me or they handled that situation like I probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
But what's their perspective? Where are they coming from?
Right. They could be having a shitty day.
Maybe their mom passed away.
Right.
Maybe their dad passed away. And they're dealing with something and they're still at work. Right? They're still at the Kroger and she don't want to be there. He don't want to be there.
Right.
And you show up and you just happen to take some brunt.
Right.
It is your responsibility and your ability to handle that situation with the utmost kindness or just have a different perspective in your situation.
Right.
All right. Because you don't know, going back, you don't know what they're going through. But also, if they aren't going through a single thing and maybe they're just a mean person or just a bad person,
that ain't on you.
That's not on you. And you can't control what's happening in their life.
Right.
But you can control what's happening in yours and the perspective and the ideas that you hold. Right. Right. And so if you are going into that situation with anger, I'm not going to say negative mindset or not negative emotions.
Right.
Maybe you're just going through, if you step into situations not inside of your person and not at peace with what you got going on, it's a lot easier to fall off kilter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And emotional arguments, right, with a spouse.
Oh man.
Because those people that are closest to us know how to touch those buttons a lot easier, a lot faster, right? Without even mentally processing that, maybe not meaning to, they know how to hit those buttons a lot easier. And you being able to detach and control yourself and your emotions in that situation and learning how to do that is more than likely going to save you in a lot of relationships, a lot of heartbreak, and also a lot of dumb words. Right?
Mean words.
Yeah. And that whole process of thought literally comes from being in a place of peace, spending time with yourself.
That's big.
Spending time with yourself, being able to get to that place of, okay, I'm in my circle, man.
Yeah.
Right? Like the moment I feel anxiousness or I feel uncomfortable or whatever, there's certain times where uncomfortability is important, right? Being able to put yourself in those places.
Right.
But the idea behind being in your circle, right? Those times where you feel anxiousness and you don't like a situation, or you're not liking the internal processing that you're having,
right?
You need to be able to be social or mentally aware, self-awareness enough to be like, all right, I can control how I handle this situation. Yeah. I can control the fact that I'm feeling anxious right now. Yeah. Right. I can control the fact of like, okay, maybe I'm anxious about money or I'm anxious about the things or whatever, and I'm stepping into the world like that. Yeah. I'm stepping up out of my house. Yeah. And already off off kilter or
Yeah.
out of my circle,
Right.
right? The whole reason you're a human being and trying to grow
Mm-hmm.
is so that you can be in your circle when you go out into the world, right?
Right. Still be in your space, in your peace,
Mm-hmm.
in a world of chaos.
Yeah,
And
like a warrior in a garden.
yeah. And you know, I have a theory about why people freak out when stuff happens on the news and election and stuff like that.
What's that?
I don't think people are at peace with one of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
or they're not at peace at what's going on at home.
Yeah.
I think when you're at peace, and I'm not, and at peace means you're content with who you are, where you are, and you're willing to, of course, you want to continue to make your situation better, but I'm good where I am and I can control what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think when you don't have that sense of peace about you, everything going on out there, like you can look on the news, like you can easily be anxious 24/7
Mm-hmm.
by watching the news.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always somebody getting killed, somebody getting scammed, somebody getting arrested, somebody going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like people will let that get them outside of their box to the point where now the world controls you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't control you no more.
Right.
You let me,
You're moving with the ocean.
right. Like, for example, the election, right? You might be happy or you might be nervous. You know what my first thought was when after the results of the election was? You know what my first thoughts were?
What's that?
Damn, I gotta go to Monroe County to do a training for work. What can I do?
Yeah. Yeah.
What can I do?
Yeah.
I casted my vote. The results were the results of the election. All right.
Yeah.
I controlled what I can control. Didn't play out my favor, whatever, or it played in my favor, regardless of how it played out. I gotta go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
I got rent coming up the next, I just paid rent. I got a couple bills coming up. Gotta make sure my fiance is okay.
Yeah.
These are things that are in my world, in my space that I need to figure out.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's going on out there. And the reason why I have that perspective is because I am content and at peace with where I'm at. And I know what I need to do to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't have that for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which is why they get so anxious about who's running for president or what's going on, people dying and people. Now, I do think it's important to be aware, but not invested
Yeah.
in worldly stuff.
Yeah.
Be aware of, okay, there's been shootings in this area. Be aware of what's going on politically. Be aware and informed, but don't be so invested where it takes you out of your space.
Yeah.
And now you're anxious all the time.
How do you think you got to that point?
That's a good question. How did I get to that point? I think when you just experience things that happen that one that are out of your control and you've done everything you can do.
Yeah.
I think it's just the frequency of stuff just happening where I had no control over that.
Yeah.
And I think it was just time. When I was younger, yeah, I would probably be anxious and stuff about what's going on in the world and all that. And now I'm paranoid and all that. But I think as I just got older, it's like I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm actively focused on myself. And of course focused on my fiance and my parents, just my world.
Yeah.
I can control what's in my world.
Yeah.
I can't control what's out there. I think just to directly answer the question, time, because I had to learn that it's not something. Some people are just born with just being able to just focus on what they got going on.
Yeah.
Me, I wasn't really good at that. I think just for me, time, going through it, and then coming to the realization like I did everything I could, and it still happened like that.
Yeah.
I think just realizing that, and then I just got more focused on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think those three things just got me into the space I'm at now, where it's like, regardless of what goes on, I'm aware of what's going on,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to be so invested in the world, and I'm just going to really just continue to build my foundation.
Yeah.
How
Something.
about yourself?
Well, yeah, I'll go into that. I think on the smallest level of like when you see this the most,
Yeah.
is like the super fans
Oh,
of things.
yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
They're the super fans.
I can't stand super fans,
Right? Like you see your team, you know, I can understand like having a passion for a team and wanting to see a team win.
Yeah, like your home team,
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
I get that.
And knowing the players and being involved with, you know, that whole process, like going to games and doing that whole thing, that's cool.
Yeah.
But it's like the people who cry when a team loses.
Yeah. It's not that.
I've never understood it, man. I've never understood it. I've never been so invested in something that I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna cry and be upset or try to get in a fight with another team or
Yeah, another fan on the opposite
yeah,
team.
like it's just not where I'm at.
Right.
And I've never been there. I've never been sold on that fact. Like I want to win, right? And I'm gonna do everything I can for me to win.
Right.
But I've never been like, oh man, I can't miss this game because if I miss this game, you know, whatever. Like super fans, the super politicos, right? The people who are absolutely like that. They're gonna cry if their person doesn't win.
I'm leaving this country.
Right. Or whatever. Like, which is fine, like be that way, but like understand that there's more to life than what's happening out there.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not being present in your own world.
Yeah, right. And I'm gonna add another example to you. People that are like either you put celebrities on the pedestal or you like super critical of celebrities. You know, sometimes I listen to people like, oh, I hate that person. Well,
They don't know.
well, why do you hate that celebrity?
Oh, you
Well, he just seems like seems.
You're
Got
that,
it.
you're that kind of person.
Oh,
I
okay.
got you.
Oh, he seems like a. I'm like, look, I'm not critical of celebrities or put them on a pedestal because the fact that one, I don't know them for real. I only know what I see, and also they don't know who the hell I am.
Yeah.
So it's just I like to your point, the super fans, the super political people. You know, it's just like, is it really affecting you?
Yeah.
Like really?
Yeah.
I don't think people really ask themselves like, how is a celebrity cheating on another celebrity affecting you?
Yeah.
To where you just start ranting and feeling some type of way about how's that really affecting you?
Yeah. And like the folks that get caught up in all the Chiefs made, the drama, like of things happening, it just none of it. I'm all about like hearing something, you know what I mean? Like, oh shit, that happened.
Yeah.
Like I'm about that. But I'm not gonna give it a second thought once I
I'm not gonna stay in it.
Like, you know? Oh, did you hear, you know, the whole Diddy thing? Like, I was wanting to get some updates. You know what I mean?
Like,
you know, what's going on with that? You know, that's crazy. But that doesn't change anything, right? It didn't change. It's interesting to see how it all kind of plays out, but like,
yeah,
I'm still gonna wake up and I'm gonna be in my office and I'm gonna get things done. And I'm gonna go home and hopefully go to the gym and eat some food.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the whole idea of not being able, I can't imagine not controlling what I can control.
Right.
I can't imagine. And I used to I had just a couple weeks ago I had it on my board. I was like, being able to, you work in control of two things in life:
Mm.
your attitude
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and your perspective. Right?
Makes sense.
Your attitude and your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
No, that wasn't it. Your attitude and your actions.
Mm.
Those two things you can control no matter what. Everything else is outside of your ability.
Yeah.
You can control your how you feel about something, how you handle a situation.
Yeah.
Right? You can get me mad and bothered, and I can choose to punch you in the face, or I can choose to separate myself from the situation.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We can be sitting in an argument with a spouse, and we can choose to be like, well, you know what? You don't do this, this, and this, and this.
Right.
Or I can choose to take a step back and say, okay, man, what did I do to cause this?
Right.
Right? And then evaluate that and then go a little bit further. And I can still choose to say, hey, I'm gonna need a minute in this one. Right? Give me a minute and let's have a conversation after that. Right?
Yeah.
There's so many things you can choose to do, your choices and your attitude, right? All of those things. To get a better attitude is to get a better perspective on a situation.
100%. Got you. Yeah. Why do you think it's so hard for people to be a part of the solution and not the problem?
And a lot of that was based on people are not content with what they got going on, right? Touching base on what you went through before, is they're not content with their own situation, so they're looking for the distraction,
Right.
right? All of those things can happen where it's like you get so caught up in how can I distract myself from the situation that I'm in?
Right.
Whether you don't like your living situation or you don't like your financial situation, instead of taking those things upon yourself and being like, you know what, boom, I'm going to solve these problems.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of taking that focus, it's easier to say, oh man, Diddy went to jail. We need to talk about that, and that's all you talk about.
Right.
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 Or the Cowboys are playing this weekend. Like I'm gonna,
Talk shit about the other team.
Right.
Right.
That whole situation there.
Right.
Right. Knowing that it's not doing anything for you.
Right.
But it makes you feel good.
Right. It makes you feel like you accomplished something.
The person who has a financial issue and goes on a shopping spree.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That mentality of, oh, this is happening, but this makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Or even worse, you see somebody doing good and you go and talk shit.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, it must be nice. Right?
Right.
That whole mentality.
Right.
That whole mentality, bro. So I think it's because it's easier to do that.
Right.
Than it is to put on the bootstraps and say, all right, man, I like that guy drives that car.
Right.
So I'm gonna go and work and make it where I make enough money to go do that.
Yep. There is no self accountability.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when I talk shit about people, I don't have to be accountable of looking within myself and seeing like, why am I talking shit about them? Why do I feel a certain way about that person? Or when I see someone driving a nice car and wearing nice clothes, okay. What do you do? Mm-hmm. Oh, it must be nice. I can't, because there's no accountability of looking within yourself, saying, well, damn, why can I have nice things? Mm-hmm. What can I do to get those nice things? If that's something if that's something you want. Nobody wants to be self-accountable for stuff. Yeah. And nobody wants to be held to the fire for that stuff either. Mm-hmm.
So it's harder to do that.
It's hard to do it. It is. That's probably the hardest thing ever, is to look within yourself and be like, damn, I'm not where I want to be. How can I get there? That is the
What do I
hard.
have to do?
What do I have to do? And people don't want to answer that question.
Mhm.
What do I have to do?
Which you could even take this even, into a simple form and say, man, I'm fat and out of shape. I need to go to the gym. But if I go to the gym, people are gonna look at me like I'm not supposed to be there. Or I don't know what to do, right?
Right.
And then you never go to the gym because you're so concerned about other people's thoughts
Right.
on you.
Right.
When in all actuality, there's not a motherfucker in there that's I didn't mean to say that. There's not a person in that place
Right.
that is gonna have any sort of thing. And if they do, that's their own problem.
And you know what the funny thing is? People don't care.
Yeah,
They're worried
they're worried about themselves.
They don't care. They're controlling what they can control. They trying to get better for themselves, for their health.
Or on the back end of that, they're so worried about what other people think about them. They're so self-concerned on that that they're not even thinking about you.
Right.
And then you leave that gym, and then boom, guess what? They're worried about what am I gonna eat for dinner? Man, my wife's mad at me. All of those other things, bro.
Right. You are not that important.
Nope.
The only person that needs to think that you're important is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody needs to think you're important.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's like people get so out of their space because of like this. I need the validation.
Yeah.
I need the validation.
Yeah.
I need to wear nice shit because I need somebody to tell me,
oh, that's nice.
Man, that's some nice shoes you got. Oh, that's a nice shirt. I need to get a nice car because man, that's a nice car. Mm-hmm. I need that validation from the outside world. Yeah. Man, be fine driving your Honda Civic or your Camry. Yeah. It's getting you to point A to point B.
100%.
And you can afford the payments. Mm-hmm. You can control what you can control. Mm-hmm. But
and you're putting yourself in a better place doing so.
Right. But the thing is, that doesn't have to be your future though. Like if you want a nicer car, hey, this is just where you're at right now. Mm-hmm. But let's do some self-assessment, some self-accountability, and let's form a game plan to get the car that you want. That's right. Now, what is it going to take? Right? Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to answer that question. No.
Or they want to set the goals and make them feel good, man. I set these goals, man. I'm gonna make $100 grand this year.
I'm killing it. Yeah.
I'm gonna make $200 grand this year. Yeah. And then, boom, a year goes by, it's still making 50 G's, and you're like, yeah, next year I'm gonna set the goal, man. $300,000 is what I'm gonna bring home, and then guess what happens? Another year, man. It's still making them right. I'm like, it's not about it's about the action that you're putting into it, right? Again, going back to the things you can control is your attitude and your actions.
That's it, man. And be intentional about what you're doing too. Mm-hmm. I think people don't be intentional about it. They say it to your point. Yeah. Because it sounds good. Yep. You tell somebody else, hey man, I'm planning to do this, that, and the third. Oh man, that's what's up, man. Then when you by yourself, you ain't doing nothing.
And we're speaking from experience, bro.
Right. Listen, I've done that plenty of times. But then you start to realize, like, I'm in the same spot.
Mm-hmm. Or you start realizing the goal is harder than what you thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Right. I see this on a regular basis. I'm guilty of this.
Yeah.
Man, I can't tell you how many times I've had, in real estate, I've had the goal of 25 million, right? 25 million being gross in the sense of every home that you sell goes towards that 25 million as the sales price. Right. So 500, if you sell two $500,000 houses, you sold $1 million. Yeah. That whole thought process. I've had 25 million up on the board for the past 3 years. Yeah. We've gotten close, but never once have we hit that 25. Mm-hmm. And I've never lowered the goal but the expectation to receive it or to get to that point has always been pushed.
Yeah.
Right. And it's one of those things that I didn't realize how hard it was going to be the first year I set that goal.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, we close 15, another 10. We can do that. We just got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do those things. And then it's like, oh shit, we got a little bit closer, but not close enough.
Close enough.
Right. And so the idea behind it is not to get discouraged, but to control your attitude so that you don't lose the motivation.
I like that. Control, yeah.
Right?
Because that's the first thing that goes when something's not going your way. Is your attitude.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of a chain reaction. Then when your attitude's like you go from being motivated to not motivated, what tends to happen? The action disappears.
And then you start feeling bad about it or whatever, and you start making that action again. It's a whole cycle. Right?
Doing this.
Whereas, that going back to the last podcast, don't quit. Don't stop doing the actions, right? And in life, this is a good point. Like in life, you have the ups and downs.
Right.
But how often are you being conscious in the facts of when you're up here, right? Life's easy. You're getting all the green lights, you're doing all the things you need to be doing. How often are you taking a piece of that? And you're saying, oh man, I was being thankful every morning and every night. I was writing down my goals each week.
On it.
Yeah. How often are you reflecting on that? But then also on the back end of that, how often are you reflecting when things are going bad? Right? Because a lot of times those are the only moments that we really reflect on. Are the bad moments, like, man, how did I get here? How did this happen? What did I do to cause this issue? But when everything's groovy, what are we doing? We're sitting back, we're relaxing,
not preparing.
We stopped making the phone calls that we were making. We stopped doing all those things. We stopped connecting with people like we were, right? Whatever it might be. Like you see that in real estate because of the ups and downs.
Right.
You start, you're at the bottom. You're like, man, I don't have any sales. You start getting sales, and then you stop doing the things that got you sales, and you start focusing on other stuff.
Right.
And then your business goes back down. You're like, oh man, I got to pick it back up. Right. So the ebbs and flows of life are very similar to the ebbs and flows of sales.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But what are some of the things that you do to kind of put yourself in that place of, and I may have already asked you that, but what are some of the things that you do to not fall into the being distracted by other things? Because I had this happen today. Right. I had this happen today where I got distracted.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, I know what I did there, and I'm going to talk about that, but I want to know, what are some of the things that you do? And it could be the small moments, the big moments, or whatever. What are some of the things you do to either mitigate the fact of falling into
that distraction trap?
Yeah.
What do I do to stay focused and avoid distraction?
Well, or stay focused on the things that you can control.
Stay focused on
That was me.
Focus on the things I can control. I think you gotta, for me, you gotta go through the exercise of really understanding what you can control. That's what I do. And the biggest thing is really self-reflection. I'm a self-reflective type of person. That's my answer, self-reflection. And it's really, and I've gotten better at it, but it's really just taking time out of your day, whether it's early, if you're a early morning riser, taking time out, whatever it is. And I've gotten better at writing stuff down too. Just really writing down, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, complete this, this, I can control this, I can control that. And just being intentional about it. Like it has to be a daily thing, for at least for me. Because I can fall into the trap of I write it down and then
Forget about it.
Forget about it. And then when something happens that's out of my control, oh, I'm kind of like lost. I'm in a panic mode almost.
Yeah.
So it's really the daily exercise of self-reflection, whether it's just you just being in a quiet place or just actually just writing it down. That's why journaling is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to not journal. I used to think like, oh,
That's for
for
girls.
girls. You know, I don't journal. But I think it's just writing your thoughts down and going through your thoughts and like seeing how you're thinking and seeing like, okay, this is how I reacted when this happened. Or this is how I reacted when this happened. And then just really thinking about like it's kind of like a you ever heard like a lessons learned?
Mm-hmm.
So my dad does this with me to this day. When something happens, right? Or I'll just say even with my job, we go through a project and there's peaks and valleys with the project. But at the end of the project, we go back and say, okay, what were some of the lessons learned in the project?
Battle review.
Yeah, battle review. I think it's going back to those lessons learned and it's preparing you and actually showing you like, okay, this happened because we didn't plan effectively, or this just happened because there was a bad weather and it damaged the plant, right? So really just going back and seeing like before you start something else, going back and seeing like, okay, what can I do to for at least for my next task, making sure I can control what I control, which is like planning the project, making sure you got the right schedule, make sure you're projecting whether putting all the effort into that. And then once you do everything you can do to prepare, and then also you gotta understand like here are some things that were out of our control, like bad weather, or we got a bad vendor, or things that we just didn't have really control over. We didn't have control of somebody, a vendor quitting on the job. That's something that just happened. But again, we put that in our lessons learned. So now we're aware of when the next project kicks off, and it might be a similar project to what we just went through. We went through our lessons learned. Okay, this is what happened. We can control that. This is what happened. We can control that. This happened. We had no control over that, but we're aware of it.
Yeah.
And to our point, right. And to our point earlier, things are happening where we have no control over it. And then there's things happening that we do have control.
Yeah.
So the things that are happening out there that we can't control, be aware of it. And it can be a part of your preparation, but just understand you just have no. Right. If it happens, okay, at least I was aware of it and I can move forward accordingly.
Right.
So that's just something I like to do, work wise and just personally, like writing stuff down, like things that happen, whether it's okay, maybe I should have planned better on this event or this task, or hey, this happened. I just, call a flat tire. I couldn't prepare for that.
Right.
But now that I understand, like, okay, you might go to the mechanic and they say, oh yeah, these tires are known to go flat, blah blah blah. Okay, I'm aware of that now. So next time I go get new tires in my car, I know like, okay, this brand of tires has a 35% chance of the tire going flat.
Right.
So that's it, man. It's writing stuff down day to day, at least for me, and going through your lessons learned for the day and seeing like, okay, this is what I can do to make it better, or hey, I really don't have no control over this, but at least I'm aware of this could potentially happen again.
Right.
So that's what I do.
The battle review, that's a good piece.
Yeah.
That's a really good piece. I used to do that a lot, for myself. I haven't really done it with my agents as much as I used, as I need to.
Yeah.
because in transactions and in real estate, there's a lot of things that can come out of left field.
Yeah.
Right. And you start learning those things and like, okay, well, I can prepare for this, this, and this, and this. I can do this, this, and this, and this. But that's massive. That is literally a game changer. And if you wanna catch a learning curve, do a review like that with somebody who's been in the game a minute. What are some of the things that you pick up during a transaction that can go wrong or will go wrong? Right, Murphy's Law.
Yeah.
What can, will.
Right.
Right. And if you can start getting the Murphy's Law backlog of everybody else who's been in the same situation, that's why it's good to have a coach.
Yeah.
Mentor. Those things can help out massively. Right. The journaling, being able to do those daily reviews, being able to put your thoughts on paper of like where you're at mentally, physically, those types of things are very good.
Yeah.
But that all comes from a self-awareness piece. It was hard, it was super hard for me myself, like journaling for the first couple years.
Yeah.
Because you're just like,
what's the point of this?
What am I supposed to do?
Right.
What am I supposed to do? And something that helped me, and I recommend this all the time. There's a journal on Amazon. It's called the Daily Journal.
Oh, okay.
It's morning and night. It's just a morning and night review. That's all it is. And bro, it helps you kind of put things in perspective, and it has prompted pieces. So like you're actually going through, like, what do you think about this quote? And then you can kind of make a note. Or, what was the best thing about your day? The worst part of your day. Right? And you can break that down each and every day.
Yeah.
From the morning, from the night. And you can see where you started off the day. And what happened, at the end of the night. You still having a good day? How's your attitude? Where's your, whatever?
And you can see kind of how your day transition.
How your week transitions, how your month transition. And you just a perspective on where you're at, because I'm guilty of this, and I'm sure you are as well. You're going through life, man. You're not thinking about last month, really. Yeah, I mean, there's not too many times. And a gift that I received that was probably the best gift that I've ever received, for me personally, it's called a 5-year journal. And it's literally 5 years of a prompt each day.
Yeah. And
you fill that out, right? I started it last year. And bro, you can see, I mean, it's about perspective. The first year, you just kind of go through it. The second year, you get to see how responsive is that?
Yeah.
to whatever the prompt is.
Yeah.
Right. Who's somebody that you should call today, or something like that.
Oh wow.
Right, something like that. And then so that's your prompt. Or who is somebody in your life right now that makes you laugh? Right.
Okay, it really gets you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
it's called the
5-year journal. And then so over the first year, man, it was good. Like, I see the point in this, whatever.
Yeah.
This year, I'm able to see, because my life has changed drastically.
Yeah.
I'm able to see my perspective, and I'm able to put myself back in that place that I was in at that time of the year last year.
Right.
And I was seeing like, what was I thinking? Right? Like, that was my response to that question. Yeah. Or even more so, I'm still there with that. I'm still there with that. And then there's the other parts where it's like, oh man, that was a goal. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Or something like that, where you start having different perspectives over a period of time, and you're like, man, that entire month I was kind of like, I wasn't doing good. Or, man, I had a really good month that month. I wonder what I was doing differently than I'm doing now. Yeah. Right. That type of thing. So that's really good. The daily journal on Amazon, it's like $10, dude. Worth it. It's like, I think it's like 6 months or maybe a year or something like that.
More kind of short.
It's just boom, 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 boom. It helps with the perspective. The 5-year journal, and I mean, I would start that now just so you can do it. Right. It's super cool. And then kind of going back into what I asked you was today, we deal with a lot of clients in different parts of their lives, right? Right. I had a guy, man, he's looking to sell his property. It's $1.1 million. Right? Looking to sell his property up in Alpharetta, or up and coming by me. And looking to sell his property. And I've done some things around there, right? But every time I get around above that $1 million mark, I get a little nervous. I'm like, man, I don't know how am I gonna talk to this guy? You know, is he gonna like the numbers that I present?
Right.
You know, all the things, but it's just like it's higher level for me for whatever freaking reason. And so I kind of like overthink it.
Yeah.
And then I find myself like today, I had to call him back and kind of go over the numbers with him. And I found myself like doubting myself, like, man, he doesn't know what me, like, you know, like the
little meeting time.
yeah, that whole process. And so I found myself on my phone. And I was like, I'm just checking Instagram real quick. And for no reason, I had no notifications.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just popped on Instagram, just kind of distract myself. And I was like, oh, I'm distracting myself.
Yeah.
And then so I set my phone down. I would get back on my computer, rerun the numbers, whatever. And then I find myself like my phone goes off. So I pick it back up. I'm on Instagram again. I'm like, oh shit. I'm
trying to find that out.
Yeah. And I'm like, all right, stop that.
Yeah.
What do I need to do?
Yeah.
Right. And so I started putting in, you know, doing the whole database search, whatever, going through the process. And ultimately it came out to be for myself, I had to reflect on that a minute. Because I was like, why was I doing that?
Yeah.
And this is like a quick little minute, but I was just like, man, I'm insecure about that for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm good enough to do that. And I'm like, that's bullshit because I know I can do it. I've done it in the past.
Right.
It's not an issue.
Right.
But I was like, maybe I'm thinking about things differently, and maybe this guy doesn't, you know, whatever. And I finally like I finished out the thing. I call him, bro, coolest guy. He's like, man, I'm for sure going with you. Da 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 da. And I'm like, what was I stressing about? What was I stressing about for no reason?
Yeah.
I explained the process. I explained that, you know, we may be a little bit overpriced, but that's perfectly fine because I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talked about commission, we talked about everything, and it was all good. It was all kosher.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wasted so much time on this. Like a task that should have taken me maybe 30 minutes took me an hour to do because I was
nervous.
I was distracted. I was feeling insecure.
Yeah.
I was feeling an emotion that I'm not used to.
Yeah.
And so my body was just like, bro, let's check out something funny. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. You do that, and I get more like analysis paralysis.
Overthinking it.
Yeah. Cause like for example, I wanted to pitch this idea of like we have some like big projects, and you know I wanted to pitch the idea of like, hey, on a monthly basis we should do something like a report or something that shows like the progress of these. So I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, he could potentially say this. You know, what are some questions he could ask? Okay, he could ask this, ask this, ask this, ask this. Okay, I'll put the presentation together. I go through it. No, this is too elementary. Scrap it. Start over. I did it like 3 times. Then finally when I did it, now this is what like it took me like 2 hours for 2 hours. Did it within probably like 20 minutes. Just put the presentation together. Scrapped it. Did another one. Didn't like how it looked. Scrapped it. Did another one. And then like, cause I'm trying to answer questions like, I think there's questions he's going to ask, so I'm trying to make sure I answer all the hypothetical questions that he's going to ask. Long story short, I got to a point where I'm like, man, fuck it, whatever. Get into the meeting, go through the presentation. He literally just says, Alex, this is good. Yeah, let's do it. I'm relieved, but I'm like, wow, I just did a whole mental exercise, and the presentation was only 15 minutes.
So my question is, how different was the first one from the last one?
it different format. The content was the same. That's the wild part when like after the meeting and everything, because I had different versions. To your point, I was just looking through them. I'm like, I didn't change nothing but the fucking font and format. Like,
Yeah.
and I probably took out maybe like 2 slides from like the first to the third version.
Yeah.
But the content still was the same.
Yeah.
So it's funny how like you say you distract yourself. I'm overanalyzing, trying to make sure I answer everything, and then when it comes down to it, it's like, damn, this shit happening.
Yeah.
The deal got done in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally get that, man. I just think a part of me is like, is that a good thing? Because we care so much that we want to knock this out the park.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that's like, damn, why I do all that?
Yeah.
But then there's a part of me like, well, no, you did that because you just wanted to really do well on this.
Yeah.
So I think it's just two things, right? One, catching yourself like you did when you're kind of getting off path.
Yeah.
And then 2, when you get into that feeling of like, damn, I did all this for no reason, and he was cool with it. Like, bro, just give me some grace. Like, you want to do a good job. You know, it's okay to be insecure about a big deal like that because it's a big deal to you. Like 1.1 million, that's a big, that's a big transaction for you, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's just giving yourself grace. Like, you know, it's cool to feel like a little insecure about it because, like, wow, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's good that you caught yourself like, oh, okay, I'm distracting myself. Let me just get back to it. But it's just giving yourself grace. Like, hey, I'm human. There are things that I'm aware of that I do.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I care enough to go about it in this way. Now I need to tweak some things about it, but I still want to continue to go about it this way.
Right.
Now, if I feel nervous or insecure about it, I'll just work through it.
Yeah. And then you got to be able to get to that point of working through it and then realizing having that self-awareness.
Because I just feel like that feeling is not going to go anywhere.
No, but you can get better at shortening that period, right?
Yeah.
Right. We talked about that in the last one. Just being able to shorten the period of the time of inaction to action, inaction to action, distraction to action.
Right.
All of these things because and on being able to understand the point of like things aren't always going to be perfect, man. And that's something that I move closer to over each year that I'm in this business as I start realizing I don't have to know all the information. But I do need to. I need to know. I need to know the information, and also be okay with like getting into a situation of I'm okay with being uncomfortable because I know that I can work my way into out of that situation.
Right.
But it's more so like I just get to the point where I'm like, I could distract myself for a minute. Oh, I was wondering what YouTube video, you know what I mean? Like,
you get down rabbit hole.
Yeah, and so like I'll make that maneuver instead of, oh, I need to jump on this real quick, right? But I've been able over the period of years, been able to minimize that happening.
Yeah.
And then catching myself when I catch that little thought process of like, oh, I'm gonna pick up my phone.
Yeah.
And just not doing that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, okay, I just need to make 12 more calls instead.
Right.
I've gotten better at that, but there still are moments like today where I was like, maybe it was just 10 minutes that I was on there, but I being able to catch myself and being able to pull myself out of that process.
Yeah.
Whereas alternative to that, you can be in there for an hour and look up and like, oh man, I didn't get any work done today. Right. To be able to minimize that is huge.
And then I like how you said minimize it because it don't like I said, it will never go away. Like I'll always have a analysis paralysis. You'll always have like a moment where you might go, all right, let me just quickly just go look through something. But I like that you said it can go from you doing it for 20 minutes to now it's 15 to now it's 10. And then you might get to a point where you're locked in.
Yeah.
You know, I think as long as you're aware and you're working towards trying to shorten that period, I think we're in a good space.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you gotta be aware of it.
Yeah.
And I think just overall the basis of our episodes is just don't give up. Like,
Yeah.
Don't
continue to work.
Continue to work and don't give up. Cause you could have easily just been like, oh, fuck, I'm nervous. You know what? Fuck it.
I'm never calling you back.
Right. Fuck it. 2 minutes go on my phone. Or I could have just been like, man, fuck this presentation. I'm just gonna tell them. I'm just gonna reschedule the meeting.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. But final thought for this episode, and I think we've touched on it already. But just to simplify it, how have you taken the phrase control what you can control, and how have you applied it to your mind, body, and spirit?
Yeah. Control what you can control. I talk about it a lot with my team. That is something that I definitely try to push because it's been so impactful for my life. So I think being able to talk about it and actually put action to it, it allows me to have it constantly around me.
Yeah.
How have I been able? How is it? What was the question again?
So how have you taken the phrase control what you can control, and how have you applied it to your mind, your body, and your spirit?
Yeah. So in my mind, I try to very much control my attitude with things, right? And make sure that I'm taking a perspective on make sure I'm not just looking at it for a solo perspective.
Right.
Because I can be very guilty of that. And my body, I think that plays it. I think control what you can control plays into your body and your spirit because you are focusing on the things that you need to focus on and how you're going to improve the things around you.
Yeah.
Which ultimately improves your life as a whole.
Yep.
And from a physical side of things, it's allowed me to stop comparing myself to people, like whether that's in the gym, because I feel like I should be doing this weight, but I'm, obviously I'm not 250 pounds of pure, and pure muscle like I like to think that I am.
Right.
And I'm also not 20 years old anymore. Right.
Right.
And my back chooses to act up, and I've busted up both my knees. Right. So it's like there's certain things where mentally, and physically and spiritually, all of these things come together because I stop comparing myself to other people as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I try to control the fact of my actions. And a lot of these things kind of just play into the fact of if I want to move closer to something, it's up to me to do those actions. There was a quote that I saw the other day. It was like God steers the boat, but you got to row.
That's good,
right?
Yeah.
And
I like that.
And so I've had a couple conversations around that, around that thought process of like, is life already planned? Like, is there life planned?
Yeah.
Or do you have action?
Yeah.
Because you can't have free will and have a planned life.
That's probably the most important thing out of this episode.
And so I've had those conversations. And obviously those have come from different places, but I think because of this mindset that I've worked on developing, it's allowed me to be able to have those conversations and still have be open to the perspective.
Yeah.
And allow me to kind of grow in certain ways where it's like the boat's going, I got to do my part. Right.
I love that.
I don't necessarily need to know where it's going.
Where it's going, but I still need to work.
But without me rowing, it's not going anywhere.
That's great.
Which is the free will part of it.
Yeah, that's great.
Things may be organized in a certain way, and there may be reasons why I got these things that I got going on. But the moment that I make a choice to do something other than row, if I start rolling backwards, it's gonna go backwards.
Yeah.
If I start rolling forwards, we're moving in the direction I'm supposed to go.
Yeah.
If I choose not to row at all, we're not moving at all.
Yeah.
Right? We're just gonna be sitting there. So I think that's kind of the ultimate piece.
Man, that was awesome, bro. That was awesome. Man, I'll say for me mentally, the mental part of controlling what I control looks like for me is just, and like I touched on it in this episode, just self-reflection. Just really looking at a situation and just putting myself through the mental exercise of saying, have I done everything I could do? If I have, then, is there anything else I can do? If there's not, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
So like for me, just slowing down and thinking stuff through and thinking about the things that are controllable and the things that are not. So mentally, body, I like how you said body to me is more of the action, right? So, like you said, how in that situation with the $1.1 million client, you mentally said, I'm insecure about this, and your action led to you going to your phone. I think it kind of, it's like a string, right?
Yeah.
They kind of play on each other as far as like, the attitude action thing. So I think because I'm thinking things through and I can actually get to a point where I'm at peace with what I can control and what I cannot control, the action is like that whole minimizing that delayed action to action.
Yeah.
Like for me, that whole analysis paralysis thing I was doing with my presentation, I've done that plenty of times, but I have realized over a span of time, it's decreased. So I've gotten to a point where it's like,
hang on, give me 1 second. We're gonna finish up.
Where I've gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm good. Now let's execute.
Yeah.
So for me, body wise, executing, and I like how you said in the gym, because it's so easy to look at somebody and be like, damn, man, you repping 315. That's crazy. But it's like, hey, but but put things in context. He's a bodybuilder. He's a powerlifter.
This is what he does.
This is what he does. That's just not me.
Yeah.
Or even with jujitsu, it's so easy to be like, damn, man, he's a blue belt, he's a purple belt, brown belt. But then you gotta be like, bro, you haven't been doing this for 6 months. They've been doing this for years.
Yeah.
So it's just continuing to focus on you and make sure you're getting better and putting that into action. And then spiritually, I like the example that you gave. God steers your boat and it's our responsibility to row. I think the fact of me just understanding what I can control has given me faith about the things that I can't control. And what I mean is, if something happens that's just out of my space and out of my realm, it's like, hey, it is what it is, And I think when you have that peace about yourself, you're okay with God steering the boat.
Yeah.
Or, whoever you believe in, whatever. But, for us, it's like, I'm good because I've done the necessary work to get to a point of peace, of being able to control my space. I'm fine with God directing me throughout this world how He needs me to. Because at the end of the day, I'm gonna keep rolling.
Yeah.
And if God steers me into the abyss and I can't see nothing, I can still roll.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna still roll. I don't know where I'm going. I might be going down a waterfall.
Yep.
But I have faith that He's not gonna steer me in that direction, or He's gonna steer me in that direction, knowing that I can get out of it.
Right.
Which played into our last episode.
Yeah. Just having the faith.
Just having the faith. That's the spiritual aspect of it.
I love it, man.
Yeah, man. Like, subscribe, share. Share with your mom, your dad, some of your family members that you don't like. Share with them. We are, and we say this every episode, so I'm gonna keep saying it until y'all get it. This is a grassroots effort. We're beginning. I feel like we are embarking on something very impactful, and I'm glad I'm here on this journey with my brother.
Same.
Yeah.
Keep it growing.
Keep pushing.
Until next time.